The luxury ship Starlight Wanderer moved slowly through the dark space between stars. Its metal body gleamed under the light of distant suns. Inside, hundreds of wealthy aliens from across the galaxy enjoyed their expensive vacation. They had paid good money to see the wild frontier regions where few ships ever traveled. Captain Veltar stood on the bridge, his 6 arms moving across the control panels. His blue skin looked pale in the ship's lights. As a Thraxian, he had been flying ships for over 60 years. He had seen dangerous pirates, deadly storms in space, and regions where gravity went crazy. But today, something made him nervous. "Captain," called out his navigation officer, "we are approaching Sector Boundary 7 Alpha Prime." Veltar's large eyes looked at the star map floating in front of him. A huge red line appeared on the display. Beyond that line, the map showed nothing but empty black space. No trade routes, no colonies, no space stations. Just a vast region marked with warning symbols. "What is that area?" asked a voice behind him. The captain turned around. A young female alien stood there, looking at the map with curious eyes. She was Zixala, one of the passengers. Her people, the Kellians, looked almost like humans, but with silver skin and larger eyes. She was a scholar, always asking questions about everything she saw. "Miss Zixala," Veltar said carefully, "you should not be on the bridge during navigation." "I am sorry, Captain, but I could not help but notice that strange empty region on your map. It is so large. Why are there no colonies there? No trading posts?" The bridge became very quiet. All the crew members stopped working and looked at each other with worried faces. Even the ship's computer seemed to make less noise. "That region is restricted," the captain said. "Please return to the passenger area." But Zixala did not move. She was too curious. Restricted by whom? The Galactic Consortium controls all of civilized space. If they restrict an area, there must be a good reason. "There is," said another voice. An old alien walked onto the bridge. His name was Keshmer, and he was a Vorthan. His people lived for over 300 years, so he was very old and had seen many things. His gray skin looked like ancient stone, and his eyes held the weight of many memories. "Keshmer," the captain said with a warning tone, "perhaps we should not discuss this." "The young lady asks good questions," Keshmer replied. "She deserves to know why that region of space remains empty." Zixala looked between the 2 older aliens. "What is there? Some kind of dangerous phenomenon? A black hole? Deadly radiation?" Keshmer was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Deathworlders." The words hit the bridge like a cold wind. Several crew members made small sounds of fear. One of them, a plant-like Florian, actually stepped backward. "Deathworlders?" Zixala repeated. "I have never heard this term." "You would not have," Keshmer said. "It is forbidden knowledge. But they exist. They come from a world so dangerous, so hostile, that it should have killed them long ago. Instead, they grew strong. They became something that the galaxy decided was too dangerous to allow." The ship's warning system suddenly started beeping. Red lights flashed on the control panels. "Warning," the computer's voice announced. "Approaching restricted boundary. Course correction required immediately." Captain Veltar's hands shook as he input new commands. "Change course. Maximum distance from the boundary. Now." As the ship turned away from the red line on the map, Zixala grabbed Keshmer's arm. "Tell me more. What are Deathworlders? What did they do?" Keshmer looked sad and tired. "They did nothing wrong, child. That was the problem. They were too good at surviving. Too good at adapting. Too good at growing stronger. I do not understand. Their world tried to kill them every day, Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, meteors from space, diseases, predators with teeth like swords. Any normal species would have died out. But not them. They learned. They grew stronger. They turned their deadly world into their home. Zixala felt a chill run through her body. Where are they now? Contained, the captain said firmly. The Galactic Council made sure of that. They cannot leave their region of space. And we cannot enter it. Why not? Because, Keshmer said quietly, the Council was afraid. Afraid of what they might become if left alone. Afraid of what they might do if they spread across the galaxy. The bridge fell silent again. The only sound was the soft hum of the ship's engines and the distant beeping of navigation systems. What are they called? Zixala asked. Keshmer hesitated. Even saying the name seemed to make him uncomfortable. They call themselves humans. As if responding to the forbidden's word, the ship's long-range sensors picked up something strange. For just a moment, there was a signal from the restricted region. It was gone before anyone could study it. But in that brief moment, it sounded almost like music. Captain Veltar quickly turned off the sensor display. Return to the passenger areas. Both of you, now. As Zixala walked away from the bridge, her mind was full of questions. Why would the galaxy be afraid of one species? What made these humans so dangerous? And why did hearing their name make her feel both frightened and strangely excited? Behind her, she heard Keshmer talking quietly to the captain. How long has it been since the containment was established? 297 standard years, the captain replied. And no contact since then? None. The region remains silent. The automated systems report no movement. No ships entering or leaving. Good, Keshmer said. But he did not sound like he meant it. As the Starlight Wanderer continued its journey away from the Forbidden's region. None of them noticed the small sensor readings that appeared and disappeared on the edge of their detection range. Something was out there in the dark. Something was watching. And somewhere in the restricted region that had been silent for nearly 3 centuries, ancient systems began to wake up. 3 days after the luxury ship returned to civilization, Zixala could not stop thinking about what she had learned. The name humans kept running through her mind. She tried to find information about them in the public databases, but there was nothing. Every search came back empty. She asked her professors at the university. They said they had never heard of any Deathworlders. She checked with the Galactic Library. The librarians looked confused and said no such species existed in their records. But Zixala knew what she had heard. She knew the fear in Captain Veltar's voice. She knew the sadness in old Keshmer's eyes. These humans were real, and someone was hiding information about them. That was when she remembered the stories about Historian Grailton. Grailton was an Exari, one of the insect-like species that lived for centuries and never forgot anything they learned. He was famous for collecting Forbidden's knowledge, books that were banned, records that were classified, stories that the government did not want people to. Took Zixali 2 weeks to find him. His archive was hidden. Beneath the capital city of Nexos Prime, she had to follow a series of secret passages through old tunnels that ran under the streets. The air was cold and damp. Strange lights flickered on the walls. Finally, she reached a heavy metal door marked with symbols she did not recognize. She knocked 3 times, then twice, then 3 times again, just as her contact had told her. The door opened with a soft hiss. An ancient Nexari looked out at her. His compound eyes were like clusters of dark jewels. His forearms moved constantly, as if he was always working on something. "You are the young Kellyan who asks about forbidden subjects," he said. His voice sounded like wind through dry leaves. I am Zixala. I seek knowledge about Deathworlders. Grelton stared at her for a long moment. Then he stepped aside and let her enter. The archive was amazing. Books covered every wall from floor to ceiling. Computer terminals hummed quietly in corners. Holographic displays showed maps of star systems that no longer appeared on official charts. In the center of the room was a large table covered with old documents and data crystals. "Sit," Grelton said, pointing to a chair. "What you ask about is dangerous knowledge. Why do you want to know?" Zixala told him about her experience on the luxury ship, about the restricted region of space, about the fear she had seen in the older aliens' faces. When she finished, Grelton was quiet for a long time. His fingers moved across one of his computer keyboards, and a large display screen lit up in front of them. "What I am about to show you," he said slowly, "is classified at the highest levels. The Galactic Council has tried to erase this information for 3 centuries. Many people have died to keep these secrets hidden." The screen showed a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. It looked beautiful from space, with white clouds swirling over green and brown continents. "This is Earth," Grelton said. "The homeworld of the species you ask about. The first contact survey was conducted 300 standard years ago." New images appeared on the screen. Close-up views of the planet's surface showed massive storms, earthquakes that split the ground open, and volcanoes that shot fire into the sky. The survey team could not believe that anything intelligent could evolve on such a world. Grelton continued. The planet was classified as a death world, level 12 hostile environment. No civilized species had ever survived anything worse than level 6. But they did survive, Zixala said. More than survive. They thrived. The screen now showed images that made Zixala gasp. Cities with millions of inhabitants. Machines that could fly through the air. Ships that sailed across dangerous oceans. And everywhere, the creatures that had built all of this. They walked on 2 legs like some species she knew. But their eyes faced forward like predators. Their faces showed emotions that were easy to read. They had hair on their heads in many different colors. Their skin came in various shades of brown and pink. They look almost friendly, Zixala said. That was the problem, Grelton replied. When our survey team made first contact, the humans were excited. They wanted to meet us. They wanted to learn about other species. They wanted to share their knowledge and culture. The screen showed video recordings of the first meetings. Humans and aliens standing together, talking and laughing. The humans showed them their art, their music, their science. They offered food and gifts. They asked countless questions about life on other worlds. They seemed peaceful, Zixala observed. Yes, but the council saw other things. They saw how quickly humans learned. In just a few days, they understood our basic technology. In a few weeks, they had improved some of it. They asked questions that showed they were thinking in ways that made our scientists uncomfortable. More images appeared. Humans examining alien equipment. Human children playing games that involved complex strategy. Human artists creating works that combined their own styles with alien influences they had just learned about. The council studied the humans for 6 months, Grelton said. They learned things that frightened them. What things? Humans had survived multiple extinction events on their world. Massive climate changes. Asteroid impacts. Volcanic winters that lasted for years. Each time, instead of dying out, they became stronger, more adaptable. The screen showed graphs and charts. Population numbers that dropped and then rose again. Migration patterns as humans spread across their dangerous world. Technologies that developed faster than any other known species. They had also survived something else, Grelton said quietly. Each other. New images appeared. Battlefields, weapons, cities destroyed and rebuilt. Humans had spent thousands of years fighting wars against each other. But instead of destroying them, this made them better at cooperating when they needed to. They learned to work together against common threats. Zixila stared at the screen. They fought each other? Yes, but when the survey team arrived, humans had been at peace for over a century. They had united their world. They were reaching for the stars, and the council feared this? Grailton's eyes seemed to grow darker. The council was made up of species that had evolved from prey animals. Peaceful plant-eaters. Hive minds that valued stability above all else. They looked at humanity and saw something they could not understand. What? Predators who had chosen to be protectors. Killers who had learned to create instead of destroy. A species that grew stronger through conflict, but used that strength to build rather than conquer. The screen went black. Grailton turned to look at Zixala directly. The council made a decision. Humanity would be contained, locked in their home region, never allowed to spread across the galaxy. But why? If they were peaceful, because, Grailton said sadly, the council could not believe that such a dangerous species would remain peaceful forever. They were afraid of what humans might become if given access to the galaxy. Zixila felt cold. What happened next? The containment was established. And then, everything went wrong. Grailton stood up and walked to another section of his archive. He pulled out a data crystal that glowed with a soft red light. What I am about to show you, he said, are the actual recordings from the secret council sessions. No one outside the council was supposed to ever see these. He placed the crystal into a special reader. The room filled with holographic images. Zixala found herself sitting in the middle of the Galactic Council chamber, watching events from 300 years ago. The council chamber was huge. Representatives from every major species in the galaxy sat in a great circle. In the center, a human delegation waited to speak. They looked small and fragile compared to some of the massive alien species around them. The session we are watching, Grailton explained, took place 3 months after first contact. The humans had sent ambassadors to request membership in the Galactic Consortium. Zixala watched as the human ambassador, a middle-aged woman with gray hair, stepped forward. She spoke clearly and confidently about her people's desire to join galactic civilization. She offered to share human knowledge, technology, and culture. She promised that humanity would follow all galactic laws and treaties, but Zixala could see the fear on the faces of many council members. The first to speak against the humans was Coordinator Vexthal of the Zephyrian Collective. His crystalline body sparkled as he moved. These creatures come from a world that kills without mercy. They have adapted to survive conditions that would destroy any civilized species. How can we trust beings who were forged by such violence? The human ambassador replied calmly, "We have learned to work together precisely because our world taught us the value of cooperation. Our challenges made us stronger, but also made us understand the importance of peace." Next came Representative Gulmer of the Gastropian Federation. His slug-like body glistened with nervous moisture. "My people evolved from peaceful grazers. We do not understand the concept of conflict making one stronger. This sounds like the reasoning of predators." "With respect," the human ambassador said, "every species here has faced challenges. You have all overcome difficulties to reach the stars. We have simply faced different challenges." The debate continued for hours. Zixila listened as species after species expressed their fears. The mollusk Confederacy worried about human unpredictability. The hive minds could not understand human individualism. The peaceful commune found human competitive sports disturbingly violent. Even humans playing games with balls seemed threatening to them. "They test themselves constantly," said Elder Fintara of the Aquatic Alliance. "They seek out danger for entertainment. They climb mountains that could kill them. They explore oceans full of predators. This is not normal behavior. The human ambassador tried to explain. We explore and challenge ourselves because it helps us grow. We do these things safely, with proper equipment and training. It is how we learn and improve. But the council members were not convinced. They showed videos of human activities that seemed incomprehensible to them. Humans jumping out of aircraft for fun. Humans racing vehicles at high speeds. Humans competing in physical contests that push their bodies to the limit. Look at their entertainment, said Councillor Jekta of the Harmony Coalition. They create fictional stories about conflict and danger. Their heroes are warriors and explorers who face terrible odds. They celebrate those who fight against impossible challenges. We tell stories about overcoming adversity, the ambassador explained, because these stories inspire us to be better. They teach us about courage, friendship, and never giving up. The council session paused for private deliberations. The holographic recording showed Zixala what happened when the humans were asked to leave the chamber. The fear in the room was obvious. Representatives huddled together in their species groups, whispering frantically. They adapt too quickly, said one alien. In just 3 months, they have learned our languages, understood our technology, and begun improving our medical techniques. Their planet produces many different types of humans, said another. Different skin colors, different cultures, different ways of thinking. Yet they work together. This is unnatural. They have too many emotions, added a third voice. They laugh, cry, get angry, show love, express curiosity, and feel wonder all at the same time. It is chaotic. When the session resumed, the council's decision was swift and unanimous. High Councillor Metric, the elected leader of the galactic government, announced the verdict. The Terran species shows admirable qualities, but represents an unacceptable risk to galactic stability. Their aggressive adaptation abilities, combined with their unpredictable emotional responses and history of interspecies conflict, make them unsuitable for galactic citizenship. The human ambassador looked shocked. But we have shown no aggression toward any of you. We have offered only friendship and cooperation. Your intentions may be peaceful now, Medric replied, but your nature suggests this could change. A species that thrives on challenge. And conflict will inevitably create problems in a galaxy that values peace and stability. We have had peace on our world for over a century, the ambassador protested. A century is nothing, Metric said coldly. We think in terms of millennia. Can you guarantee that your species will remain peaceful for 1,000 years? 10,000 years? The human delegation was silent. They could not make such a promise. Therefore, Metric announced, the Galactic Council hereby establishes a permanent quarantine around the Terran home system and all human-occupied space. This quarantine will be enforced by automated defense platforms and constant surveillance. Humans will not be permitted to leave their designated region. Any attempt to do so will be met with immediate defensive action. The human ambassador's voice shook as she spoke. You are condemning us to imprisonment for crimes we have not committed and may never commit. We are protecting galactic civilization, Metric replied. The decision is final and will not be reviewed. As the holographic recording ended, Zixala sat in stunned silence. The archive room felt very quiet and cold. The humans accepted the quarantine without resistance, Grelton said softly. They withdrew all their ships to their home region. They stopped all attempts at communication. For 50 years, everything was peaceful. What happened after 50 years? Zixala asked. Grelton smiled, but it was not a happy smile. The humans proved that the council had been right to fear them, but not in the way anyone expected. He reached for another data crystal, this one glowing blue. Are you ready to learn what happened when humanity decided to test the boundaries of their prison? Zixala nodded, though she was not sure she really wanted to know. Then prepare yourself, Gralton said, for the story of how humans became legends. The blue data crystal cast strange shadows around the archive as Grailton activated it. New holographic displays showed galactic communication networks, sensor readings, and incident reports spanning 2 centuries. For 50 years after the quarantine, Grailton began. The human region remained completely silent. The automated defense platforms reported no movement. No ships attempting to leave. No communication attempts. The council believed their problem was solved, but it was not? Zixala asked. No, the humans were learning, adapting, becoming something the council had not expected. Grailton pointed to the first set of displays. It began with what we called the ghost signals. The hologram showed communication centers across the galaxy. Alien technicians worked frantically at their equipment, looking confused and worried. Strange transmissions started appearing on our networks. They bypassed every security system, every jamming device, every firewall we had. Our best engineers could not understand how they were getting through. Zixala watched as the technicians tried to trace the signals, but the sources kept shifting and changing. The transmissions seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. What were the humans sending? She asked. Music, stories, mathematical proofs, art, scientific discoveries. Grailton manipulated the display, and Zixala could hear fragments of the transmissions. Beautiful melodies played by instruments she had never heard. Poems in the human language that somehow conveyed deep emotions even without translation. Complex equations that solved problems alien scientists had worked on for decades. They were sharing their culture, Zixala said, amazed. Yes, but that was not what frightened the council. What frightened them was how the signals were being transmitted. Our best minds could not figure out the technology being used. The signals seemed to ignore the normal laws of physics. The display changed to show frantic meetings of council scientists. They had charts and diagrams covering every wall, all trying to understand how humans were accomplishing the impossible. The signals could not be stopped, could not be traced, and could not be blocked. They appeared in every language, perfectly translated for each species. Some were received in formats that had not been invented yet by the receiving species. How is that possible? We never found out. The humans were somehow predicting our technological development and sending information in formats we would understand when we were ready for them. The hologram shifted to show the next phase of human activity. After 20 years of ghost signals, we began detecting the phantom ships. Space patrol vessels appeared on the display, their crews looking confused and frightened. They were chasing sensor contacts that appeared and disappeared without explanation. Long-range sensors would detect vessels moving at impossible speeds through restricted space. When patrol ships investigated, they found nothing. But sometimes they found gifts. The display showed strange objects floating in space. Perfectly carved sculptures made from rare minerals. Mathematical models that demonstrated advanced physics. Small devices that performed functions no alien technology could achieve. Each gift came with a simple message, Gralton continued. Always the same words, "We come in peace." Zixala stared at the images. They were still trying to communicate. Still trying to make friends. Yes, but the council saw only the impossibility of what was happening. Ships that could not be detected until they wanted to be seen. Technology that surpassed the best efforts of thousands of species working together. Humans who somehow knew exactly where to leave their gifts for maximum discovery. The display showed council meetings growing more and more frantic. Security was increased around the quarantine zone. More defense platforms were built. Sensor networks were expanded and improved. Nothing worked The phantom ships continued their activities for another 50 years. They seemed to be testing our capabilities, learning our weaknesses, mapping our defenses. But they never attacked, never threatened. They just watched and learned. What finally made the council act? Graelton's expression became very serious. The breach incident. The hologram changed to show the heart of galactic civilization. The central sector, where the council chambers stood on the most protected world in the galaxy. Millions of warships patrolled the area. Defense grids that could stop entire fleets protected every approach. One morning, exactly 150 years after the quarantine began, the impossible happened. The display showed security cameras inside the council chambers themselves. The great circular room where galactic decisions were made. It should have been empty except for the cleaning staff. Instead, a human stood in the center of the chamber. A single human had somehow penetrated through thousands of layers of security, past millions of guards, through defense systems that had never failed. She was just standing there, waiting. Zixala watched as alien security forces flooded into the chamber, weapons drawn. But the human did not resist. She was a young woman with dark skin and kind eyes. She wore simple clothes and carried no weapons. What did she say? 5 words that changed everything. "We would like to talk." The hologram showed the chaos that followed. Emergency council sessions. Military commanders demanding explanations. Scientists trying to understand how the impossible had happened. How did she get there? No one ever found out. She would not explain. She just repeated that humanity wanted to establish peaceful relations. She offered to answer questions about human technology and culture. She promised that her people still sought only friendship. What did the council do? Graelton's face grew dark. They panicked. If humans could reach the council chambers undetected, they could reach anywhere. The illusion of safety was completely destroyed. The display showed massive fleet movements. Thousands of ships heading toward the human quarantine zone. The council activated the extermination protocol. They decided that humanity was too dangerous to be allowed to exist. The entire galactic fleet was ordered to sterilize every human world. Zixala felt sick. They decided to kill them all? Yes. The fleet reached the quarantine boundary and prepared to attack. They had enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. What happened? When they crossed into human space, they found nothing. The hologram showed confused fleet commanders staring at empty star systems. Planets with no life. Stations with no power. Ships with no crews. Every human colony was empty. Every space station was abandoned. Every ship was gone. There was no trace of where billions of humans had disappeared to. They had vanished completely in the few hours it took the fleet to reach them. Where did they go? The official report said they must have died out from some disaster. The council declared the human problem solved. The quarantine zone was maintained, but only as a memorial to a failed species. Graelton turned off the holographic display. The archive became quiet and dim. But you know they did not really disappear, Zixala said. I know. The ghost signals stopped for exactly 100 years. The phantom ships were never seen again. But sometimes, deep space monitoring stations would detect strange energy readings from the quarantine zone. Readings that suggested massive construction projects. They were building something. Yes, but what? We can only guess. Until 3 days ago. Zixala's eyes widened. 3 days ago? The same day your luxury ship detected that strange music signal. The day you first learned about humans. Graelton activated his emergency communication system. The quarantine zone is showing energy readings unlike anything we have ever seen. Something is coming back. As if summoned by his words, alarms began ringing throughout the city above them. Emergency signals flashed on every communication channel. "What is happening?" Zixala asked. Grelton's face was pale as he read the incoming reports. Long-range sensors have detected massive objects approaching the galaxy from beyond the rim. An invasion fleet from outside our galaxy. They have already destroyed 17 other galaxies. Are we going to evacuate? No, Grelton said quietly. Because something else is happening. The quarantine zone is opening. And humanity is sending us a message. The message arrived on every communication device in the galaxy at exactly the same moment. Every species, every ship, every space station received it simultaneously. The transmission was impossible to ignore or block. Yet it carried no trace of aggression. Zixala listened in Grelton's archive as the calm, clear voice spoke in perfect translation for every language in the galaxy. "This is Admiral Sarah Chun of the Terran Federation. We have been watching. We have been waiting. We have been preparing." In the background of the message, they could hear something that made Zixala's heart beat faster. It was music, but not like any music she had ever heard. It sounded like stars singing, like the gentle voices of ancient worlds, like hope itself given sound. The quarantine zone established by the Galactic Council 200 years ago is hereby lifted by mutual agreement. Humanity requests permission to re-enter galactic space, not as the species you feared 3 centuries ago, but as the guardians you are going to need. Grelton's screens showed sensor readings from across the galaxy. The Forbidden region was lighting up with energy signatures that should not have been possible. Massive structures were emerging from what had appeared to be empty space. "We know you detect the approaching threat from beyond our galaxy," the human voice continued. "The Devour fleet has consumed 17 galaxies before ours. They convert all matter into weapons and all life into fuel for their advance. We have been tracking them for 150 years. Ships began appearing at the boundary of the quarantine zone. But these were not the simple vessels that humanity had possessed 3 centuries ago. These ships moved through space in ways that seemed to bend reality around them. They were beautiful and terrible, like art and science had become one thing. We know you are afraid of us. We understand why. But today, we ask you to remember something. We never wanted to be your enemies. We chose isolation to protect you from what we were becoming. Today, we choose to be your shield." The transmission paused, and Zixala could see tears in Grelton's ancient eyes. "The stars whisper our name because we taught them to sing. If you recall, we offered friendship once before. That offer remains open." Around the galaxy, the response was immediate chaos. Every government called emergency sessions. Every military commander demanded updates. Every scientist tried to understand what they were seeing on their sensors, but in a small archive beneath Nexus Prime, Zixala and Grelton watched in wonder as the truth finally revealed itself. "They were never imprisoned," Zixala whispered. "The quarantine zone was their choice." "Yes," Grelton said. "They realized what they were becoming. They knew their rapid growth would eventually threaten the stability that other species valued. So they removed themselves voluntarily." The screen showed human ships moving to intercept the approaching Devour fleet. But these humans moved through space using technologies that seemed like magic. Their ships appeared and disappeared, traveling faster than light without using any known method of propulsion. What did they become during those centuries alone? Something beyond our understanding, but still human in the ways that matter most. The first battle began at the edge of galactic space. The Devour fleet was massive thousands of ships that converted planets into weapons and turned stars into fuel. Each vessel was the size of a small moon. The humans met them with ships that were tiny by comparison, but moved like dancers between the giant enemy vessels. They fought with weapons that seemed to manipulate space and time itself. energy beams that moved backward through time to hit targets before they were fired. Defensive shields that existed in dimensions the enemy could not reach. But most importantly, they fought with perfect coordination. Every human ship moved as if it were part of a single mind, yet retained the individual creativity that had always defined humanity. How are they doing this? Zixilla asked. We always wondered what would happen if humans had enough time and challenges to reach their full potential, Grelton said. Now we know. The battle lasted for 3 days. The Devour fleet, which had never been stopped before, found itself fighting an enemy that seemed to predict their every move. Human ships appeared where they were needed, disappeared when they were in danger, and struck with precision that was almost artistic. On the 3rd day, something unprecedented happened. The Devour fleet retreated. The human admiral's voice returned to the galactic communication networks, but this time she sounded tired. The immediate threat is neutralized. The Devour fleet has been convinced to seek uninhabited galaxies for their expansion needs. Convinced? Zixilla said. Not destroyed, Grelton noted. Convinced. Even at this level of power, humans chose negotiation over elimination. We will establish joint patrol stations at the galactic rim, Admiral Chun continued. Representatives from all willing species are invited to participate in the defense network. We will share our technologies gradually as each species becomes ready for them. There was another pause before the final part of the message. To the Galactic Council, we say this. You were right to fear what we might become. You were also right to hope we would become something better. We chose to prove that predators can become protectors, and that strength can be used to shelter rather than dominate. We return to you not as conquerors, but as the friends we always wanted to be. The quarantine is ended. The invitation to join us among the stars is extended to all who choose peace. In the days that followed, the galaxy slowly adapted to its new reality. Human ships appeared in major systems, but they came bearing gifts and offering assistance. They shared technologies that solved problems the galaxy had struggled with for millennia. They offered medical advances that extended life and reduced suffering. Most importantly, they offered something the galaxy had almost forgotten: hope. Zixala found herself aboard one of the first joint exploration ships, working alongside human researchers who treated her as an equal partner. She learned that humans had spent their isolation not just advancing their technology, but learning to be better than they had been. We had all the time in the universe to think about what we wanted to become, explained Dr. James Wright, her human colleague. We decided we wanted to be worthy of the friendship we had always hoped for. She looked out at the stars, where human and alien ships worked together to build a defense network that would protect the galaxy from future threats. The Forbidden Territory had become the foundation of a new age of cooperation. Why do the stars whisper your name? She asked. Dr. Wright smiled. Because we asked them to remember our promise, that no matter how far we traveled, how strong we became, or how different we might appear, we would always be the species that reached for the stars not to conquer them, but to sing with them. As their ship moved through space, Zixala could almost hear it, the gentle music that had been detected at the quarantine boundary months ago. It was the sound of stars singing, of space itself humming with joy, of a galaxy that had finally learned that its greatest strength came not from its most peaceful species, but from its most dangerous species choosing to be gentle. The humans have returned not as the monsters the galaxy feared, but as the heroes it needed, and in the vast orchestra of galactic civilization. They have finally found their place, not as the loudest voice, but as the harmony that helped all the other voices sing together. In the end, the territory had been forbidden not to keep humanity in, but to give them time to become worthy of the universe they so desperately wanted to protect.